Good afternoon and welcome to the CrossWORD CYBERSECURITY PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time by the Q&A tab situated in the right corner of your screen. Just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll, and I'd now like to hand you over to Tom Ilube, CEO. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this interim accounts 6 month to the end of 30th of June 2023 presentation. In the room we have myself, Tom Ilube as Chief Executive, Mary Dowd, Chief Financial Officer, and Stuart Jubb, Group Managing Director. And just to remind you, I've been Chief Executive CrossWORD from the start, 30 years in the technology industry, and have a couple of other board appointments. And Mary?
Hi, Mary Dowd here, CFO. I joined CrossWORD in May 2018. I have a background in retail and professional services, and my first role in CrossWORD was to IPO the company onto AIM in December 18.
And Stuart?
Yeah, good afternoon. Stuart Jubb, Group Managing Director. I joined CrossWORD back in 2016, very early days. Previously, I was at KPMG, where I was COO of a global team of 200, and also worked in the defence and security team, helping some of the big US companies with their cyber offerings. For KPMG, I served in the military for 9 years in NATO and other countries.
Thank you. Sir Richard Dearlove continues to be our chairman. Sir Richard, obviously former head of MI6 and also chair of the trustees board of the University of London. So just to remind you, CrossWORD's vision and mission, what we do is partner with organizations to help keep them secure in the digital world. And the way that we do that is by reducing cyber risks for our clients. By providing a portfolio of innovative products and services. The key words there is that we take a portfolio approach. We aren't a single product or single service company. We have multiple products and services, and that reduces risk across the company. Our approach is to reduce cyber risk. You can never completely eliminate it, but you can reduce it. And we have an emphasis on innovation because we know that in this market, you need to innovate continuously. And one of the initiatives I'm going to tell you about is how we're innovating in the area of generative AI. Key to us as a company is our company culture, and we're very focused on maintaining our values of responsibility, openness, learning and flexibility, because what we have found as a company is that if you have a strong culture, you're more likely to attract talented staff and hold on to them, and we have been quite successful in doing that. Just to give you an executive summary of where we are and how things are going as the company, we have a healthy sales pipeline through to the end of the year. Our challenge is to convert those opportunities into contracts, and that's where a lot of the focus is. We have no shortage of opportunities in the pipeline. The challenge is getting those over the line, converted into contracts, and delivering them so that we meet market expectations for 2023. We've got a strong focus on organic growth, and really our focus is on a path to profitability. As a company now, we are all about managing and driving that path to profitability, and we expect to get to profitability and cash break even during the second half of 2024 by leveraging our strong and stable cost base to drive performance. And actually costs are dropping quite significantly as a percentage of revenue, as we'll talk about as we come onto that stage. We have an increased emphasis on targeting larger clients. We have a set of what we call key accounts, major clients that can make full use of CrossWORD's range of products and services, and we make sure that we tell those clients about all the various products and services that we can offer them and encourage them to take a look at them and take them up. We engage with Chief Information Security Officers in various ways. We've been running a number of what we call CISO breakfasts and dinners that Stuart will tell you about later on. and we're now funded for growth through to profitability. We did a 2.15 million convertible loan note round in August this year, and we have a little bit of extra headroom on that. But that money that we now have in the bank takes us through to break even. So we are not now dependent on raising any more money in order to get to cash break even in the second half of next year. We have 63 staff across 4 countries, primarily the UK, but we also have activity in Poland, where we have some of our development team. We're doing some work in the Gulf region, particularly Oman, and we do some work in the Caribbean, particularly Bermuda, a big insurance sector, and some other territories as well.
So I'm going to take you through some of the achievements we've made in the first half of the year. So we had strong revenue growth to 1.9 million. That's 27% growth over the same period in the prior year. Within that, we had 35% ARR growth to 2.7 million, and that excludes repeat revenue. And that growth was across all areas of the business in products and consulting. And we improved our gross margin to 20% from 16% in the first half of the year. Some of that margin improvement was driven by the 80% growth in our product revenue, which is high margin revenue. We've stabilized our admin costs. So excluding one-off costs, our admin costs increased by less than 2% over the same period in the prior year. And as a percentage of revenue, they've reduced by 20%. Our headcount has reduced by 12% in the first half of the year, and we have made some investments in managed services platform, in the quality of personnel, and in the tech. We're leveraging our client base to cross-sell, and we're targeting our larger clients to make full use of our range of products and services. And this was evident in the FTSE 250 consulting client, which we contracted with to sell dark web threat intelligence services in the first half of the year. And that service is being delivered through our Trillion platform. We issued 375k of convertible loan notes in April 23. 250k of those were to Tom. We were included in the CyberTech 100 list in May 2023, and that's the top 100 most innovative cyber tech companies in the world. We continued with our product development, risk and modules for use in our supply chain cyber practice, and many more features and modules within Trillion. And we had a software engineering services revenue in H1, and this was with a key partner, strengthening ties there, but also offering valuable development opportunities to our staff as a result of that engagement.
Okay, and if we talk about the outlook to achieve market expectations in 2023, as I said, we have a healthy sales pipeline that we monitor carefully. The challenge is to convert those opportunities in the pipeline into contracts. So we need our clients to continue to be active in this area, and we need to work hard to get them over the line, and that's what we're very focused on. Revenue growth rate for 2024, we expect it to be circa 30% on 2023, and that would take us to total revenue for 24 in the region of 8 million, which would be a very healthy position to get to. Our diversified product and service offering will drive scale whilst managing risk. That's important to us. And also, as we've said, what's important is that our administrative expenses, as our revenue grows and our admin expenses grow much more slowly or even stay flat, admin expenses will be dropped by a half in 24 versus what they were in 22. So you'll really see that change happening as the revenue climbs in 2024. And there's a big focus on margin improvement across the business as we manage our way very carefully and deliberately on the path to profitability that we'll get to by the second half of next year. And as I said, there are some new initiatives that we're working on and we're very interested in, and one that I'm focusing attention on is the impact of this new wave that I'm sure most of you have heard about, generative AI, large language models as exemplified by ChatGPT, and what is the impact of that going to be on cybersecurity on both sides of the equation? What is it going to be in terms of the capabilities that it gives to attackers, hackers, fraudsters, and people who want to do harm to organizations, and what are the capabilities that it is going to give to companies to enable them to defend themselves. What we know is that it is going to have a big impact on both sides of that equation. We also know that it's going to have a big impact on companies themselves, how they organize themselves, how they structure themselves, and there'll be a lot of change over the next few years as companies embrace this technology, perhaps reduce staff, perhaps change the roles that staff are performing, perhaps change the shapes of their companies. But as they do that, and every time they make one of those sorts of decisions, it will have an impact on cybersecurity, on the risks that they face, the vulnerabilities that they face. And therefore, we are immersing ourselves in that with our clients. So we're taking a client-led approach to this. And in fact, one of the things I'm doing later this week is bringing together some of our key clients into a program that we're calling Cyber AI, to really have a deep dive into this area and say, what should companies be doing now immediately to address the situation? What should they be planning to do over the next 2-3 years? This will be a big area. There'll be a lot of change and a lot of activity around the impact of generative AI on cybersecurity, and we will very much be right at the heart of those conversations. Stuart, over to you.
Thanks, Tom. So the growth in the cybersecurity sector is pretty well documented, but it's just worth looking at a couple of things. So firstly, with speaking to the likes of Amazon and Microsoft, we know that the growth of the digital economy is just in the foothills. And by that, I mean the adoption of cloud is still much earlier days than people realize. So as the digital transformation continues, the attack surface will continue to grow, and as will digital crime. And you can see the graph on the left that McKinsey estimate that the damage from cyber attacks is due to reach around about 10.5 trillion by 2025. And the growth of the cybersecurity market is lagging behind the growth of cybercrime. So we think there still remains a very big opportunity in cybersecurity. The sort of criminals that we're seeing conducting the attacks are very sophisticated. They're not just teenagers sat in bedrooms. They're organized, they're industrialized, sometimes state-sponsored. They're run like businesses, so they even have their own online helplines for the tools they sell. So it's increasingly turning into an arms race, and artificial intelligence is only going to become a catalyst there. So the fact that we're running the Cyber AI program means that we're really sort of at the forefront of innovation. And if you look at some of the recent breaches, so Travelex were forced into administration in 2020 because they were unable to respond to a ransomware breach. And the recent Capita breach just shows how damaging cybersecurity attacks can be. So that's likely to cost them about £25 million. And for the outsourcing industry, which is such slender margins, that's a really big number for them. Next slide, please, Mary. So just as a reminder, so we provide a portfolio of software consulting and managed services. So we're not just a one product company. We've got over 60 people in London, Poland, Oman and Singapore. We have a presence in Bermuda, the major global reinsurance hub, and the Caribbean. And we're doing increasing amount of business overseas. We were founded in 2014 and listed on AIM in 2018. And we've acquired and successfully integrated 3 businesses over the past 2.5 years, which has really bolstered out our product portfolio. And as Tom mentioned, we are a portfolio company, which both diversifies the risk and increases the opportunity. And we see the opportunity in that the cybersecurity market is a very competitive market, and the hardest part of the sales process is initially acquiring that client. So when you're able to get into the client, they will then see you as the trusted advisor and come to you to help them with further cybersecurity problems. So the fact that we have a portfolio means we're able to take advantage of those cross-selling opportunities, which I'll come on to shortly. Next slide, please, Mary. Okay, so we've built the portfolio and we've built that to address different parts of the cybersecurity problem, and this is based on the demand we're seeing in the market. We've got our supply chain risk management platform, Risicon, which is supported by our supply chain risk management team. So we provide a managed service in supply chain cybersecurity. A lot of breaches are on company supply chains. It's probably the most vulnerable part of a company's infrastructure. So a lot of big companies are doing a lot of work and spending a lot of money in this area. We've got Trillian and Arc. Trillian and Arc mine the dark web for stolen logins and credentials. So if you're a company that's had a data breach, Trillian and Arc can tell you, give you advance warning that there are those stolen credentials on the dark web. And we've also increased the functionality that we can look for increased chatter about a company. So it will essentially give you early warning that an attack might be taking place. We've got our monitoring, detection and response platform, Nightingale. So this is a managed service using the platform, and it offers a range of cybersecurity services from monitoring, network protection, breach response and forensics. And we're seeing a lot of success implementing Nightingale across our existing clients. And we've also got our consulting team, who are made up of ex-Big Four and blue chip system integrator background consultants. We find that there's companies often need help integrating some of our products. We find that they will come to us with other problems, and the consultants are very handy here. And we've got over 100, well over 100 consulting clients now, into which we're cross-selling our portfolio. So we've built a suite of products and services based on client demand. And as Tom said, with things like the Cyber AI initiative, we're looking to continuously innovate our products based on client demand. Next slide, please, Mary. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up on, Mary mentioned the FTSE 250 company earlier. So they've been a client now for 3 or 4 years, I'd say. It initially started off as a small piece of consulting work, which we then grew into a managed services piece of work. So we offer our virtual CISO services. We've been able to upsell Risicon into them, and a big project supporting that to look at their supply chain. We've also upsold Trillian, our threat intelligence platform, to help them provide early warning of attacks. And we're shortly about to onboard Nightingale into a small part of their business. And if that proof of concept is successful, we'll roll out Nightingale across the whole company. And we've got a number of clients that fit that sort of profile. And we're seeing that we're selling increasing amount of products and services to some of those clients. And for our larger clients, we have targeted account plans where we're aiming to sell multiple products and services to key accounts. Our aim is to convert these clients into £1 million accounts over the next 1 to 2 years, where a high proportion of that revenue is product or managed services and is recurring. Next slide, please, Mary. So we're working with about 100 clients at any one time, so billing about 100 clients a month. We're working across multiple sectors, including insurance, financial services, nuclear and technology. We seem to be doing a lot in insurance and manufacturing, and we're finding that when we work with 1 or 2 companies in those sectors, we tend to get referred to some of their peers, and having the credentials in those sectors means that we've got a good story to tell when we go and speak to new potential clients. And we're doing a lot of cross-selling. So our sales team have a list of all the companies that we've worked with over the past 5 or 6 years. We've got a list of all our products and services, and their game is to essentially try and put as many ticks against different products and services against all of those previous clients. And we're seeing a lot of success in that area. And as Tom mentioned, as we become As our brand has improved and we've become better known, we're tending to find we're moving up the value chain now. So we're doing a lot of work in that FTSE 250 and mid-cap space. And we're running a series of dinners and breakfasts where we're getting speakers like the likes of Sir Richard Dearlove and fairly well-known business people to come and talk to CISOs. And we're finding that's very successful for new client acquisition, particularly around those bigger clients who are typically harder to break into. Next slide, please, Mary. So our strategy over the next year is to try and grow at a similar rate to the past 12 months, to increase the average revenue per client, and we're laser focused on that path to profitability. We're doing that through a number of different areas. We have spent the last 12 months scaling up our sales team. The sales team are making sort of 50 to 100 calls a day. They're looking to set up 40 to 50 meetings per month and just keep building that pipeline, as Tom mentioned. They're incentivized on qualified leads and generating pipeline, and there's a fair amount of competition between them all, and we're seeing that working quite well. As we continue to grow, we want to move up the value chain, as I mentioned. So we want to move into those FTSE 250 clients. We've got our top 10 accounts that we're very focused on building up to be £1 million accounts, and we've got the tier below those who could all potentially be gold accounts. And we have account plans for all of those, and we're looking to take them interesting ideas such as the Cyber AI initiative and a range of our products and services. We'll continue to cross-sell, as I mentioned, so we'll be aiming to sell a mix of products and services into the existing client base, and we'll continue to focus on that recurring high margin revenue. And what we're looking to do is try to sell multi-year deals. And lastly, we'll continue to pursue international opportunities. We've got good partners in Oman, the Caribbean, and Bermuda, so there's not a huge amount of investment from us to get into those markets, and we're seeing a lot of success now in some of those international markets, and we think that will continue next year. So our aim is to continue to grow in 2023 and 2024, as Tom mentioned, and become profitable next year. Back to you, Mary.
Thanks, Stuart. So here we have our consolidated statement of comprehensive income. So we can see that revenue was 1.9 million, as I mentioned previously, and gross profit of 381k. That's 20% gross margin compared to 16% in the first half of last year. Our loss before tax was 2.5 million, and that compared to 2.3 million in the prior year. We had some one-off costs this year, which would, excluding those, would have taken us back in line with the prior year. Tax in the current 6 months was negligible, and in the prior year there was an R&D tax credit there. Moving on to our financial statement, there really isn't a huge amount of difference between the position at the end of June this year and the position at the end of June last year, apart from movement within liabilities between current and long-term in relation to convertible loan notes. And the movement between the end of June and the end of December relates to cash in the main. I think that's it. Tom, back to you.
Okay. So just to summarize, our big focus is on the drive to break even by the second half of 2024. We are fully funded to take us through to cash break even in the second half of 2024, so we're not dependent on going back to the market for another funding round to get to break even on the organic side. Our focus now is heads down. It's trying to convert the healthy sales pipeline into contracts, staying close to our clients, working very hard with them in order to get those over the line. And as I said, we are excited about the potential of new areas like the Cyber AI initiative, how generative AI is going to transform businesses and what the implications of that are for cybersecurity risk and how we can help our clients manage that risk. But the big focus from CROSSWORD is continuing to drive organically to get to break even with the cash that we already have in the bank. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much for listening. We'll now take some questions. So if I hand back so that we can talk about how to give some questions, and we've seen some questions come through that I'll answer in a moment.
Perfect. Tom, Stuart, Mary, thank you very much for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab, which is situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I'd like to remind you that the recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. As you can see, we have received a number of questions throughout today's presentation. And if I could just ask you to read out those questions and give responses where it's appropriate to do so, I'll pick up from you at the end.
Thank you. So the first question is, what steps are you planning to take to address the sustained loss in value of shares in the business?
Okay, so we don't have the sort of direct control over the share price. As you would have seen, share prices across the board, particularly in the tech sector, have trended downwards over the last 6 months to a year, and our share price has suffered from that as well. Interestingly, since we announced the convertible loan note just a couple of months ago, our shares are up 30% again. So I think that as we focus on eliminating any concerns, if investors are thinking that we're going to have to raise money again, that can be a cause for concern. We've now eliminated that concern because we've raised the money we need to take us to cash break even, and that has resulted in positive movement on the share price. As we get closer and closer to break even, and as we get into break even, one would hope that that would be reflected as well. As our revenue levels increase and we get up to the sort of 6 million, 7 million, 8 million revenue, we would hope that that would be positive as well. So for us, it's about continuing to focus on the core business, continue to address the areas that are attractive to investors, and hopefully investors will take a look at us and rate us accordingly.
Thanks, Tom. The next question, are there any significant dependencies on third-party relationships within the group?
Stuart, I'll let you comment on that if there are any that, but from my point of view, I don't think that we have any major dependencies. But Stuart, do you want to?
No major dependencies. So we do have partnership relationships, but they're not significant in that we're dependent on them for big chunks of revenue. We're not like KPMG or the Big Four, where we're systems integrators, nor do we resell software. So nothing significant.
Thanks. Stuart, I think this next question is also for yeah. Is any further investment in the managed services platform needed to get to cash break even? It's one for you, Stuart, I think.
Yeah, so there'll be a bit more investment, nothing material. So we've scaled up that platform as we're cross-selling to the consulting clients, but we'd expect that to be break even by the end of the year or early next year.
Thank you. What impact have the high-profile cyber attacks on US gaming operators had on sales inquiries? Are hackers simply getting more sophisticated, and how do we keep ahead?
Yeah, it's interesting what's going on there. Attacks on gaming operators are up by an estimated 167%, particularly in the US, but worldwide as well. And there have been incidents of one attack on a gaming operator. Hackers stole digital assets worth £2 million from the accounts of gamers. There are often denial of service attacks. I think what you're seeing there is you've got a huge and fast growing industry that is entirely online, and there's just a lot of value there. And hackers focus their attention on areas that are fast growing online and where there's a lot of value, and therefore they've really focused their attention. It hasn't really had a material impact on inquiries from other industries, what I think you find is that chief information security officers have a tendency to focus on their own industry. So if they see, or adjacent industries, so if you're running a manufacturing business, you might react if you see other manufacturing businesses being hacked all of a sudden, and you say, oh my gosh, we've got to do something about that. You're less likely to react if you hear that gaming businesses on the other side of the Atlantic are being attacked. You sort of know it's relevant and you keep an eye on whether there are any new techniques being used. But broadly speaking, it doesn't sort of trigger a wave of activity in other industry areas. The challenge, as the questioner rightly pointed out, is how to stay ahead. The actual types of attacks being used are not particularly new and innovative. They're just being done on increased scale and with increased intensity. So a lot of them are large-scale denial of service attacks. Others are sort of man in the middle or other sort of hacking techniques. So the techniques themselves being used are reasonably well understood. It's just there seems to be a particular focus on basically people going to where the money is. I remember there being a quote, I can't remember the name of the bank robber many years ago, who was asked why he kept robbing banks, and his answer was because that's where the money is. And it's the same sort of thing here. There's just a lot of money embedded in gaming operators, and they're growing fast, and therefore the hacker community have really turned their attention in that direction.
Thank you. And then, will AI initiatives require significant R&D and other investments?
The answer to that is no, they won't, from our point of view, because the approach that we're taking is to work closely with our larger clients. And our larger clients will all be investing their own money in their AI initiatives, and all of them are budgeting. And in fact, any large company out there now, you'll find that they are putting together budgets for 2024, 25 and beyond to investigate and start to take action on how they will leverage this new generation of AI tools. And on the cybersecurity side, their cybersecurity teams are putting together budgets to understand how they need to respond to these changes. So our job is to be a center of expertise and a center of excellence where we can engage with our major clients and work with them, whether it's on the consulting side or whether it's on the product development side, but work with them essentially on a fee earning basis in order to help them solve those problems. And then internally for us, we have a level of R&D that we continue to spend on our products in order to keep our products up to date and so forth. And we won't be increasing that R&D spend. In fact, if anything, we're reducing the R&D spend now that the products are more mature. It's just that R&D spend that we had planned for anyway will be building generative AI techniques into our existing products. And we're already starting to do that on the Nightingale side and already looking to do that on the Risikan supply chain side as well. So in summary, no, we won't be seeing an uplift in R&D and other investments as a result of wanting to take advantage of this AI opportunity. If anything, it's the other way round. We expect to generate a revenue stream by becoming and being seen as experts in this area. So I think that's all the questions we have at the moment.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's all the questions. I think you've addressed all. Actually, one further question has come through now.
Okay, so do you want to read this one?
So the question is, ECSC has had to give up and be acquired by Daisy as it lacked critical mass. How do you accelerate to get that critical mass yourselves? Our lower gross margin profile takes a lot, it says your lower gross margin profile takes a lot more revenue growth than software to deliver meaningful profit growth. just as IT managed services, are cyber managed services, pen testing, etc., seen as commoditized now?
Yeah, so we have seen some of the cybersecurity companies out there, ECSC, Assyrium, Phalanx, I think recently announced that they have been acquired. We are still growing very healthily, so 30 to 50% a year growth through a mix of our products and services. And as I said, we expect to grow at that sort of rate into 2024. We expect to get to that critical mass of circa 8 million revenue as we go into 2024 and get to profitability. And that is a very good place to be. If we get to that sort of level of revenue and profitability and continue to grow at that rate, we're in a very good position. And not every company out there in this space has been able to do that. And really the way that we are able to do that, as Stuart said in our strategy, is having that mix of products and services, having the wide base of clients that we can work with. On any average month, we are billing in the region of 100 different clients. So we have a strong client base. We have a good range of products and services that we can offer to that client base. And the result of that is the sort of growth rates that you're seeing currently. And we believe we'll be able to sustain those sorts of growth rates. So we're perhaps in a different position to some of the other companies out there, but yes, we are seeing some movement in the market out there on the cybersecurity market. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think you've addressed all those questions from investors, and of course the company will review all the questions submitted today and will publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. But just before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which is particularly important to the company, Tom, could I just ask you for a few closing comments?
Absolutely. So CROSSWORD is very focused on our drive to break even by the second half of 2024. We want to be, in 2024, a circa 8 million revenue company that has broken even and is generating cash. We have the cash in the bank now to take us to that point. We are not dependent on going back to investors to ask for more money in order to get to break even. And we have a laser-like focus on that, on pushing up revenue, on managing costs in order to get to that point. So our focus over the coming months and the coming year is heads down, working on the opportunities that we have, converting our sales pipeline into contracts and getting to that point. We are excited about the opportunities that cyber AI brings, and we aim to be seen as experts in that area, working closely with our key clients. But the overall message is that we are heads down, focused on getting to break even over the coming year with the cash that we have in the bank. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Tom, Stuart, Mary, thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close the session, as you'll now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of CROSSWORD CYBERSECURITY PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.